Welcome to the lifetime value of spiritual holistic coaching and healing with me, Philip
On
Montrose,
this
my
slow rollout event.
wonderful wife and partner, Jane. And we can have people
Hi,
mute.
everybody. Now Buddy's acting up.
Yeah, here we go.
He's
This
been
should
fine until this
be
moment.
a fun exploratory, revelatory training. I think you'll find some very valuable information, practical information today. And Jane and I have been doing this for about 3 decades plus now, and we just have been following our calling, helping other people to do the same. And it's something where we are passionate about, and we know all of you have those passions too, which you may or may not have discovered or wanting to know how to channel them. And we can help you do so, and we'll give you some practical tips today, what works and what doesn't work. And so you really are in the right place for this training if you want to go deeper into your spiritual development and growth in a practical way. And you want a more meaningful, purposeful life, and maybe you want to enhance your career, a new career, home-based opportunity. You want a more holistically, spiritually based program to help you and support. All of that is here today that we'll be addressing integrated throughout this training. And our mission really is to help people through spiritual coaching and healing over the years with techniques like holistic EFT, emotional freedom techniques, and spiritual kinesiology, a energy healing modality we developed. And we've been interested in this to find out what makes people tick, what makes us tick. Well, what are we all about at a deeper level? And the information we're going to share here is quite hard to find. There's so much information, and it's hard to filter it and prioritize it. And some of this we'll be doing for you today over our many decades of discovery and looking into this on a deeper level. And learning this information really will save you, like us, especially if you go further. I don't mean just in today alone. All this will be very helpful for this whole training. It will help you in your personal health, your spiritual health, your mental, your physical health. Jane and I have saved ourselves, we've calculated thousands and thousands of dollars in physical problems we've addressed and helped people, our students and clients too. Mental health, anxiety, depression, things like diabetes, weight, um, heart problems, allergies, and the list goes on. So it's very valuable investment on many levels to learn this and really master it and go deeper into it. And tonight we will also focus on the 5 challenges that people like us and we're figuring you encounter and this lifetime value of what we're sharing here and how to overcome these 5 challenges. And make sure to stay tuned till the end when we do a very powerful live demonstration on using this spiritual healing coaching technique. And that will be very interesting and dynamic. So we want to start with the value of a spiritual holistic approach. Jane?
Thank you. I actually hearing you talking about the all of the dollars saved, I think it goes deeper than that too. Of course, there is the potential of having having your own career, which is what we did. There also is the quality of your life. We'll be talking about that, about we're all here to live fully and grow. Um, I think the further we go into these kinds of things, that we come into the deeper meaning of things, kind of more the adventure of life, the purpose, just so much. And when we're talking about a holistic approach, it's interesting with the program we offer. Occasionally, people will come into the program thinking when we're talking about a holistic approach, we're talking about diet, like a holistic diet and maybe having some herbs and things like that, which are wonderful, wonderful, wonderful things. But what we're talking about is a more expansive perspective on what holistic is, because what we're talking about is integrating the body, the emotions, mind, and spirit, and understanding that all of them are connected within us. In fact, everything within us and outside of us is connected. Our whole life has meaning. There's just so many levels of perspective that we can provide, um, thinking about this today, it was like a journey into the history that we have of this time that we've been doing this, because we started in in another place completely earlier in life, and we ended up offering as holistic spiritual healers and coaches, offering programs and services to clients and writing books, so many things that we never really thought would happen. But I think that what it has shown us, and what I feel now, because it's been really more than 30 years, it's just a very long time, 3 decades, we still are learning and growing from it. If we think that we understand something, we may understand it. And then a little later, we realize, wow, there's more. And I understand it. I think it just goes more deeply into our hearts and our souls.
And wait, there's more.
Right. I still can't believe how that is. After all this time, the idea of boredom has never come up in my mind, because it's just exciting. And again, there's always so much more to explore. It is also, I think, one of the things that has it surprised me. Now it doesn't surprise me so much, but the whole journey, our just, I guess, our physical reality and our physical makeup, everything is built into us: body, emotions, mind, and spirit. Also, our whole journey to wholeness is built right into us. In other words, the spiritual journey that we're on, the potential for it's like we have this design that's built into us too, that we're reaching towards. So as we grow, it's not like it's just kind of willy-nilly. If we're following our heart, we'll be talking about the heart as the foundation and really center of our being. If we're following our heart, then we're being guided in a direction that is in sync with where we are, you could say, designed to go spiritually, or where our soul has decided to go spiritually. So there is so much meaning to it. It is just fabulous. I think a good starting place too is, what is the purpose of life? And it could go into very complex conversation, but if you want to look at it as an overview, something that you can measure, the purpose of life is to live fully and grow, the way that I see it. That we're here to feel completely alive and engaged in the things that are happening to us and for us and around us, and because of us. We are creators, after all. We're here to optimize that. In fact, at a time, we've developed a lot of things ourselves, at a time when we asked ourselves, well, how can you best measure if a person is on track or off track? And the measurement that we came upon was aliveness. You could say, call it life force. It is, how alive do you feel when you imagine something? Or how alive does something that's blocking you make you feel? Or how low does that sense of aliveness go? I can give you a couple examples. Just think of maybe a time or something even now that you don't dare to express, that you don't dare tell anybody about, and that you feel somehow, now I can I can feel my throat getting congested. And just notice where you feel that in your body. It may be in more than one place. The throat is the obvious place. The body is a metaphor in such a really synchronous way, you could say. So if we're having a hard time expressing ourselves, it probably will show up in the throat. Like I said, and you might even hear it in my voice that there's some congestion there, just momentarily, just came. And if I think now of clearing that, of having that opportunity to express myself freely and more than ever before, because we want to, my aliveness goes way up, whereas when I'm repressing it, it goes down. Or think about how it feels when someone hurts you, maybe hurts your feelings. Just think about what that feels like when your feelings are hurt. And when I focus on that in this moment, I can feel my energy drooping. You might notice your shoulders want to want to sag a little bit. And it's like, well, yeah, that really hurts. And it makes me feel sad. And where does it hurt? All of these things are very revealing. Generally, not always, because we're all different and we all have different things going on, but generally, if someone makes you feel hurt, it's in your heart. So you may have noticed a feeling of something, tension in your heart with that. Or if you feel like you can't reach out and take hold of life, what do you feel then? I feel actually my arms become heavy. And it is true that our arms and hands are about reaching out. Our legs and feet are about moving forward. As I mentioned, everything is a metaphor. And every part of us wants to be alive, which is, if you want to say, well, the purpose of life is to live fully and grow, it makes sense that what we want to do is the things that make us feel most alive all throughout our body. The body is a mirror, so throughout the body, emotions, mind, and spirit. But I think that is something that you can experience right away. And of course, in the end, I think that the thing that is most important is the depth of spirit, which is our focus. It's always been a focus for me, is wanting to explore the spiritual realms more. And so we do that in our programs and in our own lives. It's so interesting too. If you look at the holistic model, body, emotion, mind, spirit, and I do this because we have layers of our energy field that are those things. The spiritual is the deepest. So spiritual healing is the most profound and complete. And that also has been amazing to us to see how profoundly a person can change when you connect with spiritual energy, which we'll be doing later today too in this time together. So anyhow, it's been just the greatest journey for me, and I know that part of it is the fulfillment that we get because our students and clients receive so much from it. And that's what really becomes meaningful to us and fulfilling to us.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the holistic approach.
And
our holistic approach.
Going deeper into integrating the spiritual and the holistic and coaching and healing, which we do in our trainings, and why we do that. And it's actually kind of rare. Put up a little slide here on this. It's good to understand why you really need both, although it's rare. There's a lot of things that are very useful and essential that are, oddly enough, not common. And one of the ideas here is to have both coaching and healing in your approach. Now, why do you need both? They're not either or. There is an overlap, of course, but generally speaking, the coaching part is more masculine. So if you're having a training that is more coaching, you're going to get more masculine-oriented approach, action-oriented, motivation, energizing, more of a logical, linear, strategic approach, marking your progress. And all of that is useful and necessary. But alone, it's really missing. It's missing the boat. For deeper, more really life-changing spiritual transformation and breakthroughs and spiritual development can easily be missing if this is what you're doing by itself. Although without it, you're also missing, because if you're on the other side of this part, the healing part, the spiritual holistic healing and physical healing too, we also do. Jane said about the diet and sleep and exercise. We do include that, and that's certainly part of it. But just one part.
It's important, but it's just one part.
One aspect. Right. So the healing is the more feminine part, visionary, nurturing, compassionate, intuitive, connecting and relational, flowing, all of that you need. And if you do that and you heal, people have profound healings, just things that are just life-changing in our coaching and healing program, where there's labs or practice, and quote, we practice techniques, some of which one you'll see in a few minutes here coming up. And they're not only, wow, this was an interesting tool or technique, that my life just changed in a wonderful, profound way. So and then once you have that, that's incredible, and you're in a new level of awareness and understanding. But by itself, then what do you do? That's where you need the coaching, the action, the steps, the strategy, the support on that level. So that's the idea of needing them both. And going further, we also talk about in our programs integrating that coaching healing approach, understanding who we are, which Jane mentioned earlier, a spiritual being who has a purpose. So there's many levels to that statement about being a spiritual being and having a purpose, and what that means and how to actualize that. And understanding the territory, in other words, you're in a space-time place here. We all are, right? What are you doing in the space you're in, the time you're in? And that has to do with your spiritual stage of development, which we also teach. Like, where are you spiritually? What led up to it? Where were you, and where are you going? And that's a very important understanding of where you are, and having a roadmap, having tools and approaches and support. And also, what do you do when you do get stuck? Because you will get stuck. You'll make progress, and then what do you do? Well, that's where you need the help, you need the tools to overcome those roadblocks. And that having those tools and support can save you a lot of time and energy, as it has Jane and I. And when just looking back at our life, if we hadn't had those tools and knowledge, we would have had a lot more suffering and a lot more, I'll put waste of time in quotes, because everything is useful. And, if it takes you however long it takes you, we're just in the optimizing. And if you want a really direct, proven path, we've discovered some very effective things, some of which we're sharing here today. So let's go into, Jane, the 5 challenges that people have to, and they will encounter and how to overcome them. So let's look into that.
Right. Yeah. Well, the first one is being dissatisfied but confused about where to turn. And I was in that place myself at well, I think a very important time in my life, when I was originally, I mentioned earlier that we're kind of on the second life. I was originally an architect, which I did for many years, for several decades, actually. And Philip was an educator. And it got to a point after a while where it lost its luster. I guess that's saying it nicely. But we didn't know where to turn, because none of the standard things would work. We were successful. We had the house, we had the cars, we didn't have children, but we had dogs, we had vacations, we had all of those things, and it wasn't working. I think when you look at it, at a certain point, we do go beyond what's really obvious in this reality. You could say beyond the mass consciousness, the consensus reality. And it's natural to want more, to live fully. We already talked about that a little bit. It's our birthright to want to get more, and for our souls to want to grow. And it is that kind of sense of uncertainty and overwhelm, and people are moving faster and doing more and more and more, and still feel stressed and confused and overwhelmed. We just went through a pandemic, but I was thinking, when I thought about that this morning, it's like a spiritual pandemic in our country, of people who just don't know where to turn, because the solutions don't exist within the consensus reality. And what we're then looking at is recognizing ourselves in a deeper way. That the truth is that each one of us is a magnificent spiritual being in the making. Of course, not that we're not there, not that, but we're in the process of, well, self-realization, of realizing the truth about who we are. And it goes against something I think we understand fundamentally in ourselves when we hold ourselves back or limit ourselves. It's kind of like we're tying a rope around ourselves and saying, well, enjoy life, throw yourself in the water and see if you can if you can float.
Straight jacket.
Right. We also, as Philip mentioned, we've always been fascinated by the idea of spiritual growth and also accelerated spiritual growth, and doing it from a place that is more positive. There are approaches where there's a lot of wailing and crying, and a certain amount of that seems to be built into the formula, but it's not the main attraction. We actually belong to a spiritual group and earlier in life, and one of the things that they had was that was supposed to be a positive thing was suffering. You could measure how much you were growing by how much you were suffering. That never made much sense to me. Now we measure it more by joy and fulfillment and bliss and aliveness. Again, it goes back to aliveness. So I was an architect. I felt like my soul was dying, and I didn't know what to do. Another thing we knew we were searching for, which really was a big solution for us, it was our own guidance. The spiritual organization we had been in, it was one of those ones where the leader knew everything supposedly and had all the wisdom and nobody else really had any. So the idea was you're supposed to do exactly what he told you because you didn't know anything about anything, and then you would become enlightened at some point. I don't know how that was supposed to work, but we eventually, the reason why we left it, which was after 10 years, I think, approximately, was because we decided, well, if he has all that wisdom, why can't we have it? And once we asked that question, we couldn't let go of it. So it's like you jump over the fence. We jumped over the fence out of that particular herd and into the wilderness. And it took us a while to find a real solution. We found a lot, and you might have experienced this with spiritual things, a lot of things that it's like, oh, this is a wonderful thing to do. You can open to your intuition and just imagine love around you, and there it is. But it wasn't succinct enough. It wasn't something where we could reliably connect with our inner truth. And when we did discover that, that's when things really started moving for us. And when we started to explore different healing practices, we were fortunate to have met some really powerful spiritual healers. We studied Reiki, hypnotherapy, NLP. I think Philip mentioned a little bit about all of that. We've been actually exploring many, many things over the years. And ever since, it's just been a wondrous journey. I wanted to take a moment again. Do you think we have a moment to do a little aliveness thing?
Sure.
If you maybe the thing to do is start by taking a few breaths, and maybe Margaret is here as a volunteer. If maybe we could do this with you, just so that there's someone with results that we can mention. Is that okay, Margaret?
Sure.
Just a quick. So just take a few nice breaths. You can close your eyes if you're in a place where it's safe to do so. Just breathing starts to shift your focus from your mind into your body, which is a good place for it to be compared with all the, the thoughts that go through the head. And what I'd like to ask you, just in a very simple way, to focus on something you want to do or have or be that's exciting and meaningful to you, and imagine that it's yours now. Maybe just like if I could fully realize I'm a magnificent spiritual being, and it doesn't have to be that, but just something that comes to mind.
That's a good one.
Just to have that in your mind, and notice how alive you feel if you sense that is who you are now, and that is yours.
Mm.
And now, how does that feel, Margaret?
Even just when you mentioned the words magnificent spiritual being, and I thought, yeah, I'll go for that. I just immediately started grinning, and
Right.
um,
And how alive do you feel
yeah.
between 1 and 10, say, if you were to
Oh,
measure?
I'm a good 10. I
Hmm.
feel like I really want to be that. You know,
Right.
I'm sort of embodying it in my imagination.
Right. And of course,
Yeah.
if you do that and you embody it in your imagination, it is becoming a reality. That's one thing.
Mm,
But if you imagine now from wherever you are, that thing that you're imagining, imagine that you decide, well, no, that's not practical. That'll never happen.
yeah.
How could that possibly
Been there,
happen?
done that.
I must be crazy to think that could happen. Or someone else might tell
Yeah.
you, you're just crazy. This is the most stupid thing I ever heard. This is what my father used to tell me. That's the stupidest thing I, I ever heard. And then so you give up on it, whatever it is.
Yeah, I've been there and I've done that.
Yeah.
So I know
So if you
it's
imagine doing that now, how alive do you feel when you focus
yeah,
on
not
that?
very, not like a 2,
Right, right,
crushed,
right.
crushed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting spiritually. To me, it might sound like an exaggeration, but it can become a matter of life or death in a spiritual sense, where to think, well, that too. I mean, would you want to settle for that, Margaret?
No, no. But
Right.
I mean, you can sometimes be feeling like you have no choice, though, and
Right,
it's
right. And that's, of course,
yeah,
what we're talking about is having
yeah,
tools to overcome, that you are able to overcome that. And the point of what I wanted to do in this just very simple exercise is to say you can so easily understand what is of use for you in your life through that sense of aliveness. And where if you're repressing life itself. And I firmly believe life is happening for us. And if we focus on those things that we really want, that they are out there for us. Um, with that being said,
gonna
I
go
can't
back to
imagine. Oh, go ahead.
just gonna say I'm gonna go back to thinking myself as a magnificent being, so I can
Yeah.
get
Well, that's something I do as an exercise in the morning. Just I ask for that magnificence, the fullness of that magnificence to come down into my body and through my body. Because the more we bring that in, it shifts our level of energy over time. Anyhow, that that being said, um, I can't imagine now living without all these skills that we've accumulated. Well, just that, what I just shared, that one thing.
Right.
If you do that every morning and then just asked to be shown a little bit more what that is, that magnificence that is there for you. It's just coming down from the higher realms. Um, that can change your life. We're here for a reason and it is all there. It's just that we have to open to it.
Right. So should
So
we go
that's
into
challenge number one.
and we go on to challenge number 2,
Right.
going deeper beyond mainstream approaches. I want to divide this into a couple steps.
Can I also say I want to thank Margaret for
Oh, thank you,
sharing.
Margaret. Yes.
Yeah, because that's very helpful having something as a
Yeah,
real life
thank you,
example.
Margaret.
Yeah, thank you.
So
Hold that thought.
so going deeper beyond mainstream approaches, which I probably everyone watching this live or on replay are aware of. So I call the mainstream approach CNN reality. That's sort of the mainstream quote objective. And it has useful information you certainly want to know about. And some of it's very scientific and based, but a lot of it is quite biased and limited too. It can only take you so far, shall we say. And that takes you into going into more holistic approaches. And there's a lot out there on that level too. And they can be very wonderful and useful. But again, you can go down a lot of rabbit holes and a lot of detours and even misinformation on the holistic level, as you may know. You may be like us and have taken programs that are even very costly. We offer a coaching healing program. We've taken your programs that are 5 times as much and gotten actually very little out of it. Although the beauty is everything you learn, everything is useful. And, some of the nuggets on a $15,000 program we share now, in what we teach. So it all works. But besides the holistic information, you may join a group like Jane and I was mentioning, a Gurdjieff group where we met years ago. And then it gets into that follow the leader, the guru approach. You're not self-empowered, the guru is, and you need to, quote, follow him or her, usually him. And that runs into all kinds of problems. And some of it is useful. And some people have quite wonderful awakenings experiences. And some people have a lot of problems and traumas when they realize that the guru, the leader, is not a god, is not infallible, and has problems and blocks and issues and exploitation and money issues and power issues and sexual issues and all and so forth, as we're aware of. So that takes us to what Jane and I embody and teach, not becoming gurus and following us, but teaching you how to become your own guru. And that's why our coaching healing program is a mystery school where enlightened teachers show you the practices and tools and knowledge that can help you become your own guru and enlighten and self-actualize yourself. And to do one little simple exercise of something we developed, and Jane and I, as we said, have mentioned for 30 years, we've studied and developed many tools, NLP, holistic hypnotherapy, spiritual coaching, life coaching, etc. And sometimes we found there were gaps, and so that was the impetus to develop some of our own techniques and have tested them over the years and know they work. So that's why we have like kind of a combination of things that are useful. And one I'm going to present here, it's a very brief one, something we often use with EFT, emotional freedom technique tapping, which we makes it into what we call holistic EFT, and it's what we call the reset process. Simply, it's tapping 2 points on your body, your head, with your hand across your head, tapping that lightly to integrate your left and right brain, the masculine and feminine, the logical and the intuitive, and breathing. And then tapping, the second part is tapping across your heart, integrating your heart. And awakening is all about heart intelligence, and your heart is the gateway to your soul. And this is what Heart Math Institute says, developing heart intelligence. So to do this, and we just did a modeling of it, you can do following it, and you can just be with the energy or start to say, I'm more connected with my purpose and my aliveness. You can use any positive thought or feeling and breathing, and you're integrating that with your left and right brain. And tapping your heart, I'm integrating my soul and my purpose into my heart and letting it guide the way. Tapping lightly and breathing.
Mm-hmm. I like anything is possible on the head.
Yes, anything is
nice
possible.
breath, and then in the heart, and miracles are happening now.
That's the mantra,
another breath.
The spiritual mantra we developed called the miracle reframe. Anything is possible and miracles are happening now.
That makes me smile too.
Yeah, that's all good.
What about you, bud?
Yeah. So that takes us to the third challenge, Jane.
Yeah, and I mentioned jumping over the fence and reaching into the unknown, which it is a stage in the journey for us, for all of us, each of us individually. And what that does is it brings us in touch with fear. And it is, you could say, ultimately, the journey is about fear to love. It's a journey of starting with fear and moving into love. And if we could move back into the normal view, that would be very, very helpful, so I can see everybody. I like that much better. So those fears, if you, especially what's going to happen, probably with most of us or has happened, is we want to reach, or we start reaching into the unknown, and then we have all these people who are back in the herd saying, you can't do that, come back here where it's safe. That's not the way it works, it'll never happen. So when those fears come up, with which they're going to, then the most common thing, which happens to most people, is they do retreat back into the herd rather than addressing those things like the fear of exposure, the fear of someone criticizing us, the fear of failure, the fear of getting it wrong. We're going to have to confront all of those things, but that's part of the journey. That's how we grow, is by overcoming those fears and frustrations, like I mentioned, confusions, all of those things. And when we do that, when we have the tools for doing that and continuing to move forward, that's how we become creators. That we're no longer just reacting and responding in the way that society tells us we should. We're creating our own path. And it is, of course, that combination of having the healing techniques and having the coaching techniques, the ones that help us to move through life more smoothly. That combination is very effective. And of course, also we want to shift from that place, like Philip and I were in with the teacher who said, I know everything, you know nothing, to recognizing that each of us is the source of our own truth, and starting to live by that guidance, which is in our heart, the love that we hold in our heart. When we open to that, then everything can change. If you just open to that love in your heart now, like Margaret was doing, recognizing that she can connect with that part of herself that's self-realized. When you connect to that and you ask, can I create my own path? Just notice what your heart tells you. Am I capable of doing that? Is that the right path for me? The path that I lay out for myself? Or again, is it better for me to go back safely into the herd and settle for the life that other people want for us? It's interesting. We talk about aliveness a lot. Money is an interesting thing because money is such a foundational thing in our lives on Earth. One of the things that people want most from money, if you think, well, you can start having whatever it is that money would give you now, if you overcome whatever the blocks are. One of the main things, people do want security, of course. Beyond that, people want freedom. If you ask, well, what would the money provide? I would be free. I could be free to do whatever I want. So we want freedom. And to recognize that these things that make us feel alive do have meaning, and that all the obstacles are opportunities for us to grow and to bring more of that magnificence into our lives and into our beingness. It changes everything. So I think it's recognizing we can overcome the fear. And I guess we could now do the demonstration. We were going to demonstrate.
Yes, we're going to do it.
A process.
We mentioned premise part of this is just getting an idea of what we teach in our coaching and healing program, and how it can work very simply and effectively. It's nothing like having a live demonstration.
Right. And of course, Margaret is our kind and beautiful volunteer.
Oh, thank you.
Well, this is another thing. If you look at everybody, I see Christy too. Hi, Christy. Haven't seen you for so long. It's wonderful to see you. All of us are beautiful spiritual beings. For me, I'm not the epitome of what a woman in our society would look like if I had a choice. Although I love myself and I know that I am here for a reason. And I know that I look just the way I'm supposed to look. And if we start to see ourselves that way and see others that way, just looking at each other now, to see the beauty in each one. There's a unique magnificence in each one of us. That is a real gift. So anyhow, one of our processes, something that I use with clients it's one of the things I use probably more than almost anything else is a process we originally called it mud to mountaintop, because when you're in fear or whatever it is, confusion and frustration and all of that, it's like you're wallowing in the mire. And then if you can rise out of it, you can get a different perspective. When you're in that mire, the soul is not the guiding force in your life. So in other words, if you're looking for the guidance of your soul, it's not down there in the mud because it doesn't vibrate in the same place as fear, right? So just looking at maybe your soul's next step, maybe on that journey to fully realizing your magnificence. What comes up that feels like a block to you that might cause you to get stuck in the mud?
Oh boy.
Something, just one thing.
Yeah,
And this is one thing with any kind of a healing process, just to have one specific thing, because it's like you can't just clear the whole thing at once, but just one thing that maybe we could get a different perspective on.
I think that even though I intellectually know it's crap, the fear that other people might not, that whole thing about wanting them to, the herd wanting you to come back, not go and do your own thing. No, come back here. So the pressure that I might be getting from people who think that I'm reaching beyond what I should be reaching for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what does that make you feel emotionally?
It's stressful. I mean, just talking about it, I get like tightness in my chest. Because I love these people, and I want to be accepted for who I am, recognized. I don't want to sound vain, but I want to be recognized for who I am, and just like allowed to be that, because it's funny how many people expect that from you, but then they don't want to give it to you.
Right.
If they think like, well, it's fine, you can be whatever you want as long as you're in my box.
Right.
So,
yeah. So when you focus on it, how high is the stress if you measured it between 1 and 10?
It's pretty high. I think it could be a 9.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you mentioned you feel it in your chest. How tight is it in your chest?
It's my throat too. I would say that's a 9 too.
Probably delivery time.
We'll deliver on a metaphysical level too.
My office is right next to the front door, and this inevitably seems to happen when we go into the meditative processes. Then someone shows up with a delivery and the dogs go crazy.
We're talking about stress, so maybe they're feeling it,
Right.
Right.
So that aside, would you like to close your eyes and shift? And everybody can focus on something for yourself too as we do this it's just a little journey. So from that place, Margaret, just breathing in love and light from the universe around you, imagining we're surrounded by beings of love, archangels and our guides and ascended masters who are here to teach us and help us. Many, many beings of light around us. Just breathing in light and love from them. And as you exhale, just release any heaviness, any incoherent energy, just energy that doesn't feel like it belongs. As you exhale, allow that to drift down into the earth to be transformed back into light. And while you're doing that, ask any energy that is not your own. Sometimes we pick up other people's fears and and all of their stuff from other people, other times, other places. Just ask that to go back where it came from, any of that, because that makes more space for your own love and light to enter, your own magnificence to enter. And similarly, asking any energy of your own that you've left in other times with other people and in other places. Anything that is ready to come back to you now in your body. Here, just ask for that to happen too, bringing your own energy back. And how does that feel, Margaret, when you do that?
Oh, it's very peaceful.
Good. That's
yeah.
good. Yeah. And this is a very simple thing to do. What we did, those just simple things of bringing more of your own energy into your body. And what you might notice is you feel more present in the moment, which is a beautiful experience. So now breathing in lighter energy. Imagine as you breathe in that lighter energy, you become so light that your body wants to start floating upward. And we're going to go to a beautiful mystical mountaintop, one that's way high up in the perfect place for you, of course, Margaret, and for each of us, the perfect place, going up to the mountaintop. And again, more of that heaviness might be just dripping off as you rise, and finding a nice place on the mountaintop. Can
Yeah.
you see yourself there, Margaret?
Yes, I can.
What's that like?
It's very high up, like snow-topped peaks and crisp, fresh air, blue skies.
Beautiful. And of course, when you're that high up, you can see for miles and miles in
That's
all
what strikes me.
directions.
Just unbelievable expansive view everywhere, 360. I'm just on the tallest peak, so I can just look everywhere around me and just,
wow,
it's really amazing.
Wonderful.
Feels very expansive. I feel myself just opening up as I look at all of this area around me.
Yeah, and for everyone doing this, just allow as you do that, imagine that ball of light around you expanding out. We contract ourselves energetically because we want to fit in. In this moment, you can expand out and allow that magnificence to emerge more, to be there within you. What were you humming?
Well, I actually had this vision of like a shockwave of my light just in all directions, and I'm a big sci-fi great geek, so I kind of went right to this, like out in space, nuclear thing explodes and you just see the shockwave go, and I envisioned that just like, but was my energy just expanding in all directions around me, just as a wave of light. Wow.
And how does that feel?
Feels really incredible. God, I feel like limitless.
Wow, wonderful.
Yeah.
Do you deserve that?
I do. I
mean, do we all deserve that?
I think we all do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you think of those people, the pressure you feel from others, are they experiencing limitlessness?
No. No, but I instinctively wanted to bring them up there with me and have them expand their own, just experience what I just did. I wanted to have them be able to do that. And I realized that I can't, make people experience something like that.
Well, that's something you could, it's not, maybe not right now, but for some other time, it might be appropriate just to ask them spiritually if they would be open to it. Because you can meet with people on the spiritual plane.
Yeah, I don't have to actually bring them. I could just ask their
invite
spirit.
them. Now you could invite their spirit to soar with you. It would be interesting to do that and notice if anything changes for them.
My mother's already coming, so we've done it already, Jane.
Right. So from that perspective, how do you feel about having to experience pressure from others who really are not in a place where they can understand?
Yeah. I don't care. I know that sounds kind of, I don't mean to be, I'm not like being dismissive. It's just that it's not relevant to what what I'm experiencing. It's
Mhm.
their path, not mine.
Right. Yeah.
You know. Yeah. So I mean, I feel, and I don't want to say, yeah, indifferent, I guess would be a good word.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like that's okay. You go your way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we have to allow others to be where they are and allow ourselves to be where we want to be.
Mm,
So
yeah.
in relation to where you started with the stress, it was at a 9. Where is it now?
2. I wish I could say 1, but I don't know why I can't, but it's a 2.
Okay. Well, that's good. That's a big shift.
That's a big
And you can,
that's a big jump.
right. And that's
Yeah.
it's a big thing too.
Yeah.
So that's something, and you can return to this anytime to go further. So the tightness, how's that?
Oh, I don't even have any tightness anymore.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And of
In
course,
my chest or throat, either place, neither.
good. From this kind of a place for all of us, we can also just imagine sending some of that love to them.
Yeah. Back down the peaks. Like I know they're
Mhm.
not there. I don't, they're it's dark down in between the peaks, and I know that's
Mhm.
kind of where they are. And so just
Right.
gonna
Yeah.
send a little loving light that way.
Yeah. Then we can send love. We can send out love out to the world. And actually, if we are, well, you're talking about that that wave of light, like lightning bolts or whatever it was.
Yeah.
You're sending when you're doing that, you're sending energy out that is helping to shift the vibration
Mm.
on the planet. So if we're allowing ourselves to be in that kind of a place or this kind of a place, we are benefiting not just ourselves, but we are creating a benefit for all.
I hadn't thought of that, Jane. I thought of it just from my own perspective and feeling my own expanse, but it totally makes sense.
Well, the mass consciousness is a mass vibration. So if we can shift that vibration, help to shift, and more of us do it, and we become brighter, that's how the world is going to change. Yeah.
Right.
So does that feel complete?
Oh, yes. Feels
Wonderful.
wonderful.
Okay. So of course you have to imagine yourself now coming back into your seat, but you can bring that awareness of yourself with you as you ground yourself to Mother Earth, who deeply loves you too. And breathing in more active energy, just coming back to your normal waking state. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes.
That was really great. I brought that wave of light back with me, and even as I was coming down, I was throwing out waves of light. Just
Wow, that's
so
beautiful.
really, I feel so different than I did just
Good.
a few minutes ago. Really amazing. I
Yeah.
am always astounded by how quickly that
Mhm.
can flip things.
Well, you
Yeah.
may have also received a special activation. It feels like
Yeah.
like the
It-
universe
it-
sent you, some of your guides or something
Projection of
sent you.
energy. Yeah.
Yeah, it could have been. Could have been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the beautiful poem by Rainer Maria Rilke, where he said that be patient when you have challenges and unsolved things in your heart, and just live your life fully and live the questions. And then he ended, perhaps you will then gradually, without noticing it, live along some distant day into the answer. And
Mm,
if you keep going to the mountaintop and doing these powerful holistic processes, the answer comes pretty quickly. That
Mhm.
distant day becomes today. And going forward, you have wonderful days of living the answers instead of being puzzled by the questions and sometimes bogged down by them.
yeah,
Mhm.
I can honestly say I fully understand that.
Yes,
Right.
you
Yeah.
certainly do.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks, Margaret.
thank you, Margaret.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
That was fabulous.
Good.
Great. Thanks,
Wonderful.
Margaret. So we go on to challenge number 4 as we're getting on here, and finding sources and training that go beyond superficial and little results. I had mentioned earlier that Jane and I, in our explorations, we had done some things which were very powerful, like studying hypnotherapy for a year and NLP. And then some things where we went into exclusive masterminds and so forth, which are very costly investments that we got a little out of, and it was a profound experience in a way. But in terms of actually learning things, except more than experiential things and challenging things, it wasn't that great in terms of enlightening us, shall we say. And yet some things, if you find the things that do work and you call them and get people who can help you with the targeted approaches, which is what we found over time. And as we mentioned, some of them we developed ourselves, like the Mud to Mountaintops, which we just demonstrated, are very effective and can work often very quickly on areas that people will come to us. I've tried things for years and have gotten little results. And we know these things can have results very immediately and directly because what we've seen in ourselves and other people.
Right.
And they're not a way to
So
make
come
us
up.
look good, but it's a way to empower yourself. And we combine this with life coaching, which came around in the 1990s in our history here, the healing techniques, the spiritual holistic healing, like holistic EFT, and we developed spiritual kinesiology, a healing system with the soul using muscle testing that we teach. And all this works very well together synergistically because if you move forward, and it's kind of like the people that coaching, if you have wonderful coaching, I have all these goals, I have support, I'm going forward, but yet you have all this baggage, like the gurus who haven't cleared their sexual problems and money problems and exploitation problems, or just then this stuff comes out, right? It's gonna hit you from behind or just pop out at you. Or again, if you're healing and in this blissful state, but you're not living your purpose, you're not making a difference, I think you're really shortchanging your life and what you came here, what your soul's plan. Remember the soul plan before you incarnated? Remember that one? The one that is the blueprint for this life that you have a choice, free will to enact and fulfill or not, but we're encouraging you to do so. So if you do that, we think wonderful things will happen to you. And we've found that people really enjoy the results, and it makes life a lot easier. Jane, did you want to add to that?
Well, it reminds me of this story. One of our students she actually studied with us, probably around 2005, somewhere early in the 2000s. And she's local. We used to teach locally. Now we teach on the internet, obviously. And she said, Jane, and this was recently, I met with her, and she said, when I signed up for your course, I invited a bunch of my friends to join me too. I thought, well, this would be great if a few of us would do it together and we could practice with each other and grow with each other. And she said, no one wanted to do it. And I thought, well, I'm going to do it anyhow. So she did it. And she's actually a woman, and she's a wonderful artist. And since she took the program, it's been quite a while now, her life has completely transformed. She continued to develop her artistic skills and started doing coaching and healing work. And she said, wow, I'm living a completely different life. So then she went back and she said, I talked to some of these old friends. They were right where they were when I left them and started and took your training. And I'm in a completely different place. And she said, that was meaningful to me.
Yeah, and that was years ago, a few decades ago, and she's still going forward and going strong with what she really wants to do with her life instead of where she started.
Right. So yeah.
So a little feedback
really
in the chat section. I'm seeing here some interesting comments from Christy. Hi, Christy. After doing the Mud to Mountaintop with Margaret, exactly like there is more of me here. That's a nice way of saying it.
Yeah.
And
I felt full.
You're great at leading meditations, Jane. That was a nice compliment. Mary said, loads of yawning and running eyes, loads of releasing. Thank you.
Yes.
Christy, I love that, Philip. Thank you for the nice feedback. And speaking of feedback, we do get a lot of just nice feedback from people who take our programs, our coaching and healing program, the one coming up for, we'll tell you about your program. This is one of the ladies who took our program. There's wonderful people that you'll meet and make relationships with if you decide to join us. The coaching healing program, she just emailed us the other day. The coaching healing program is life-changing. I developed a powerful presence, intuition, and how to use my creative imagination, which is priceless to me. Philip and Jane are intuitive, intelligent teachers who have taught me the art of manifestation and greater purpose. Peace, joy, and clarity are my guides now. That's very poetic. Thank you. I am eternally grateful, Daniela Ramirez. She's in Winchester, California. So it is gratifying to sing that, of having things and seeing people progress. And that's part of our calling, as I said. And I know all of you who are watching this, you're connected with that kind of mission too, or you wouldn't be here in the Lifetime Value of Spiritual Coaching and Healing webinar. Jane, are we ready for the final challenge?
Wanting to understand the big picture. And it is, as Philip mentioned, and I mentioned, we've taken a number of courses. I've taken other hypnotherapy courses, many other different things. And a lot of courses you might recognize too, or like coaching courses and healing courses. There are a series of techniques which are really wonderful, but they don't give you the things that we described as roadmaps and ways to understand the bigger picture, as kind of just like where Margaret is understanding her own magnificence. The techniques that we teach are also, there are 3 courses and they're specifically geared towards understanding who we are, why we're here, and where we're going, those are some of the biggest questions that just settle in the back of our minds, thinking many of us maybe that we'll never get answers to them, but we do. The answers gradually emerge. And of course, that gradualness of it is the recognition that it's a journey. This is not, I'm going to take this course and then I'm going to be there. I'll be done. And then I'll just go on, and teach or whatever it is, have clients and that'll be it. That's not how it is. It's a magical, mystical, miraculous journey. You never know what's around the corner. And the key is just to keep taking the next step with that goal of evolving into your magnificence and whatever else it is that you want, that you're focusing on, that your heart, that soulful heart in you really wants.
Maybe Jane, I'll show that transformational triad since you were referring to it, if you want to talk about that related to it.
Okay, just quickly.
Yeah. So this is an image of what we teach, and it's the development of everyone, whether you're learning it through us very concretely, specifically in our training, or just your life will be part of this, Jane.
Yeah, the 3 courses, the one for self-development is are getting through your soul, which is training on the stages of soul development and tools for understanding where you are and how to make it to the next step. And of course, then those things you can share with others. Dream development, manifesting your dreams. That's another one of our courses. It's the one actually we're just finishing right now. And we have a 7-step roadmap for manifestation that Philip was telling me. You'll have to share after I do this. He taught the class, the final class in that series yesterday, and people talked about all of the manifestations that they had happened as a result of it during that course. And then there's purpose development, awakening to your true purpose, where we talk about understanding ourselves in a very deep and meaningful way and how to move forward towards realizing our purpose and making the difference that we want to make. So that's the transformational triad.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing just to have something very targeted and structured to help you and support you in creating the life you really want and helping the people that you really want. Really, because some people come and say, I really want to do this, I just don't know how. And the baseline of it all is having that connection with your soul, like we demonstrated with Margaret, and Margaret is one of our students, and her development has been really awesome in the last year for taking that coaching program, the 3 parts that we just shared, the transformational triad and purpose, self, and dream development. And if you
and
have
that
that
is, by the
core,
way, there is a spiritual our spiritual principles behind this too, that if you've heard of that idea of the threefold flame in your heart, that there are 3 aspects to it, and these courses also address those. So it's love, power, and wisdom, and you can associate that with the 3 elements. So what we're doing is a balanced development of all 3. If you're missing any of them, again, you might fall behind because part of you is kind of sagging. Like if you understand maybe who you are, like how to connect with your soul and how to manifest your dreams, but you don't understand deeply what your life purpose is, you can just be you can be off balance. And if any of them is off, then what you want is that development to be very fluid with all of them together. So all of them are important.
Working together, coexisting,
Right.
co-arising.
Yeah, collaborating,
Collaborating,
co-creating.
All those are,
and we're co-creating with the divine, which we also include in our courses.
So as we're getting close to the finish here, looking at your next steps, if you want to go further with us, that would be our coaching and healing program at this point, coming up June 13th on the heart and soul development, the spiritual relationships and the stages, and using that triad for the whole program of purpose development and manifestation development, and that self-development, including the spiritual relationships and stages, as I mentioned. And it's a wonderful journey. And if you can embody that, you're going to really help yourself and others in this crisis-ridden world. You might at times be despairing about all the bad news out there, and there is a lot of challenges, as we know, meta crises, multiple crises. But if you can be coming more from the heart, and as like Margaret demonstrated, holding that loving space for yourself first and inviting other people into it, wonderful things can happen. It's pretty amazing. And we talked about that triad, and there's a lot of benefits to taking this program. Some of them are a more fulfilling life, and I mentioned the lifetime savings in personal health, physical and mental. See, if you knew how to, if you knew how to help some of your physical conditions, if you knew how to help things with your body, your weight, even allergies, your immune system, physical conditions, we teach that, and these techniques really work. So what is that worth saving wise in terms of energy and quality of life? And then mentally, all the mental challenges, which can lead into physical challenges. And over the years, we've helped people with all kinds of things, anxiety and depression related things and many other things. And then some people come in for a career enhancement, having tools and skills for what you're doing, or a new business, or find out what that business is. You may start off saying maybe it's this, but when you get more soul-based and have support, things can change and you're clear from that mountaintop rather than being in the mud trying to figure out how to do your life. So it's going to
doesn't work.
Which doesn't work very well.
No.
And it's going to accelerate your spiritual development. You're going to learn this wonderful array of tested tools, and many of them we developed originally and have tested over the years, so you're not going to find them elsewhere. And you're going to be, and this is one of the things people say to us, the loving, supportive community of fellow learners, people like Margaret and Christy, who's on the call. It's hard to find people like this. It really is. And the community is priceless, and they're going to support you, and it creates this we environment, that you're in this mutual awakening space. And that's why a lot of the ahas and breakthroughs occur that otherwise you might not be able to have, maybe ever, if not a long time. It might be hard to have, and there's a lot more. As I mentioned, the you're going to learn soul-based coaching, the variety of coaching tools, coaching wheels, checklists, and more. Energy healing, some of which we've been talking about, holistic EFT, spiritual kinesiology, energy healing system we developed, and having a lot of tools to use for now and a lifetime. Holistic hypnotherapy, NLP, which is neuro linguistic programming for communication approaches, and there's a lot more to that. And Jane, did you want to add to that?
The thing, I think the part about developing connections with the other students, that ultimately my belief about all of this is that the people who come are meant to come, and they are meant to meet the other people. There are some really beautiful lifelong friendships that evolve from it. It's not uncommon for people to develop lifelong friendships from it. And I think that's one of those, you could say, a side benefit, but it is also an important thing for us to have people around us who are supportive of us. When Margaret was talking about those people, and most of us, if not all of us, have those in our lives or have had them, who tell us we're crazy or stupid or whatever. We need the ones who understand. And it is a very powerful part of it.
It is. And before we conclude here, maybe Margaret might want to say a few words of how she's experienced the program since she's been through it once. And by the way, many people review the program for us, actually a small fee to review the program. Why would they review a one-year program? It seems like a long time, and it is, but it goes very quickly. Because where you are,
but it's fun.
and where you are and where you change, where you shift into is pretty amazing. The people take it because the tools are so profound just to review them and go deeper and integrate them on the second round. And just the community, the loving community, the people are so wonderful. Margaret, would you give us a few thoughts on your experience? If you have a light, your light, it looks like it went off.
I know, I didn't turn my light on before, and it's getting dark here.
Oh, it got dark. Okay.
Oh.
So
out of the darkness into the light.
I'm trying to get a little bit more light through the window here.
Yeah, she's getting illuminated before your very eyes.
I have said this many times, and you were just talking about it too. Yeah. The community is one of the things that, I mean, I've taken many online classes, and the community of the people that I've met here has just been so profoundly enriching for me, to the point where I am repeating the course, as Philip was just saying, because in part, for my own benefit, but also because two of the people that I have met in the course, they came in after me, and I am really committed to helping them move forward. And I see that how they are helping me move forward. And I definitely have made lifelong friendships. I mean, somebody I met a year ago in the first course, and I are still very much in touch, and they're real friendships. I mean, they're not the kind of people that you have to hold their hands, and you have to be there all the time. And I mean, there's no insecurity. It's like we're all on this big journey of exploration and self-discovery, and everything is perfect and beautiful, and nobody's saying no. It's all about, wow, isn't that fabulous? So I mean, the community by far has been one of the biggest things that I did not expect that I've taken away from this year.
And I think that's common for people. People often mention that. Yeah.
I started this program mostly with the intention of helping myself heal, with the idea that maybe I'll be able to help other people too, because I kind of knew that that's what I was supposed to do, but I was afraid to say it out loud. And like one of the first places I did say it out loud was in this class. So I am now at the point where I know that that is what I'm supposed to do, and I am carving my path, and I do believe that I was guided to this course and these people, and I am extremely grateful that when I say these people, obviously I mean you and Philip. Jane and Philip.
Oh, thank you.
And I am extremely grateful that I
Mhm.
found my way here. But I also do believe that nothing happens by coincidence. So
Right.
I'm
Mhm.
just happy that my path was meant to come here.
Yeah,
So
and
thank
I'm
you.
grateful for you too.
Yeah, we're
I
grateful for
think
you.
it is, it's just a wonderful
Thank you.
thing for all of us because we're doing what we are here to be doing.
We are.
So,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, and Margaret,
Yeah.
some of her amazing spiritual gifts have blossomed through this course, and that happens
Yeah.
to people are finding out the directions that they're going. And of course, just getting the tools, the knowledge, and being with the people and just
Mhm.
the experience and the transformational experiences can be pretty remarkable. And then you do it weekly. It's very conveniently online, and they're all recorded, all the classes, in case you miss any. And it begins at this time of June 13th. And just go to our website, tinyurl.com/HOL coach, or call us directly at our home office, 805-934-1238. There's different payment plans, and there's different ways to do it, because generally, if you're called to do it, we encourage you to follow your calling. We'll figure out a way with time and money and the payments. There's usually a way to figure that out. And sometimes some miraculous ways do occur, but don't let that stop you, because what's the alternative? If you are being called to do something like this, do you
right.
just either delay it, lose time, or maybe even kind of just get lost in the mass consciousness, to see in reality that we're sort of surrounded with? And this is kind of a rarefied place. And if you're supported, just miraculous things happen in terms of people's progress and experience.
Yeah, yeah. And as I mentioned when Margaret was talking, it's fun. It is. We do go into some very deep and vulnerable places, but it is ultimately it's very joyful, I think, and enriching and enlightening.
Great. And I'm seeing also, just as we're closing, a closing comment there about Mary still releasing and enjoying being in this experience. So thanks for sharing that, Mary. Yeah, it is profound. These things happen, and this is just a sort of an overview intro class. We really go into much more depth and concrete experiences in our weekly training. So Tuesday is the class, and it's recorded if you miss any. And Thursday you practice with a wonderful partner like Margaret or someone else, and you develop relationships if you
Yeah,
want, which we encourage outside class for support partners. And they can be
right.
lifelong, wonderful relationships too, which is sometimes the case.
Mhm.
Well, Jane, anything else before we close for today on the lifetime value of spiritual coaching and healing?
Feels complete to
Yes, we
me.
hope some of you join us. We know some of you will, and we wish you the best. The rest of you, if you're on our newsletter or other offerings, or join us later. But this would be a great time. It's the perfect time to follow your calling. Go to our website, tinyurl.com/HOL coach, or call us directly. We'll figure out a time and a way for you to join us if you feel you want to explore that. So goodbye, everyone. Great being with you.
Bye-bye. Thanks
Thank
again,
you.
Margaret.